Welcome to Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast where we kick the tires and we light the fires. I'm Lars.
And I'm Patrick, and here we go. Now I have my headphones in so I can actually hear what you just said.
Perfect. So you can't, well, I would say you can't make fun of me, but you can because you will, even if you didn't hear it.
There we go. Yeah, I knew what you said, though, and I was actually going to make fun of the blown-out picture rather than point out you're referencing the wrong franchise.
Whatever. In this fourth and sorry, I can't read this shit. I'm completely, the picture's not the only thing that's blown out. In this fourth episode of the seventh and final season of Treknicity, we present to you a recap of the third episode of season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, entitled Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
That's stealing my shit now. Okay, but first we need to talk about Star Trek Prodigy before we dig into our episode recap. So, apparently back on the 23rd, Paramount Plus announced that they're canceling Star Trek Prodigy. They're also taking out Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, The Game, and RuPaul's Queen of the Universe.
The last
according to a Paramount Plus spokesman, said those series have completed their runs on Paramount Minus and will not be returning to the service. We can extend thanks, blah, 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 blah. We're throwing your show off the air, assholes. And they're wiping it from the service so you can't even watch Prodigy.
Not wiping, have wiped.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Oh, yeah, they will. Okay, yeah. Since we're almost a week past that, yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, as of this recording, which is on the 26th of June, the episodes are officially gone off of Paramount Plus. The first two, the first one, of course, of great interest. Second one of mild interest, just because I liked the Grease movie, the first one. The last two, whatever. It happened.
Yeah. But the point is, we're seeing series purged from existence. Not just cancel, but purged from existence.
That's crazy. I just don't understand that, but go ahead.
Although on the plus side, season 2 is in post-production, and it will show up somewhere.
Yeah.
We just don't know where and when yet. It has to be shopped around, so hopefully Prodigy will find a new home.
I'm hoping something like Netflix will grab it, because Netflix has been a home for Star Trek series in the past until Paramount Plus came around. The original series, Deep Space Nine, TNG, Voyager, and Enterprise all had a home on Netflix here in the United States for the longest time. So, hopefully maybe they'll go back there. Either way, as long as they go somewhere that's not way out of the way as far as streaming services go, I will be happy to consume.
So yeah, at least we're going to get a second season of Prodigy, and I'm hoping that the production team decided, let's make sure we resolve the storyline we set up with Chakotay and the missing crew, that we resolve that at the end of season 2, because with them cutting Prodigy loose, we really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And me personally, it took me a while, and I hated Dal's guts for the first half of the series so far. But Star Trek Prodigy began to grow on me, and I started to like the characters. Plus, we get Janeway back, and anything with more Janeway is always good.
Of course.
Janeway is the cowbell of the Star Trek universe.
Yep, and more of it is always better.
And the old prescription is more Janeway.
Yep. And the thing is, anybody who's familiar with the series knows that the first season of 20 episodes was split into 2 parts of 10. As he said, the first 10 were interesting, but a lot of the characters took a while to really get their footing, especially Jankum Pog and Dal. But the second half was definitely a lot better. It was definitely meatier as far as storytelling goes, and it was, despite the fact that it was largely aimed at smaller children, it was still enjoyable by adults or children pretending to be adults like ourselves.
Yeah. In other words, they didn't write they didn't write a kids cartoon. They wrote an animated series that was oriented to be shown to kids.
Yes.
Which Nickelodeon specifically had a great track record of doing that with shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, So yeah, one of the greatest animated shows ever made.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
So we'll go ahead and now we'll see what ends up happening with them coming back and being able to hopefully at least finish off and wrap up some of the very important storylines like the Protostar and Chakotay and the disappearance of the crew, and of course, as you said, getting more Janeway, aka Cowbell. Yeah, the thing that's really going to suck is that. You would have think that they would have at least kept it. I mean, they would kept it on there for you to watch. If they weren't going to bring more, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they couldn't because they knew that it was going to be shopped around before because I'm sure they would have given the showrunners notice before it went public that the show was being canceled. So they're thinking season 1 is going to pop up wherever season 2 gets grabbed, so you can binge it all together.
But the downside, this reminds me of the bullshit that occurs because we don't have physical media for a lot of things anymore because everything is gone. You pay for a streaming service and there's all your shit. Awesome.
Yeah, right. And that does bring up a good point because when I see a movie that I really like in a theater, usually the first thing I do after I get home is go on Amazon and find the pre-order for the Blu-ray. That way I've got a copy of the physical media that I can ultimately take a copy of and put on my Plex server so we can watch it whenever we like without having to pull out a physical media. But we have that backup. This whole trend with streaming and not having physical media leads to situations like this. Another good example, of course, is I listen to a lot of Spotify, and that means my purchasing of physical media or even purchasing of media from the likes of, say, iTunes / Apple Music is stopped. I just pay my monthly subscription fee and I consume. But I've got nothing to show for it. If I stop paying for it, I've got nothing left to consume.
But that still means they could take your media and says, "Oh, we're not keeping this anymore." Bunk, and it's gone.
Yep, and it's gone. We totally needed. I wish I had that bit lined up. The guy from South Park, and we'll just move your media around, and it's gone.
Yep. So yeah, I have a feeling the pirating sites are going to have a little bit of a spike for Star Trek Prodigy here.
Probably.
Or they've already had that by now because
click.
Looks like another series has been taken out of existence.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Side note, that's why piracy exists, folks, because you have no other way to get your media. If you could get it for a decent price somewhere, there's still going to be some assholes who still pirate movies. There's always going to be that. But you stop that not by going after them, and trust me, I see that a little bit from the internet service provider side. You solve it by making sure stuff is available. And if you don't want to spend your own bandwidth, find a service that'll take it and sell them the rights to broadcast it in perpetuity.
Of course, absolutely.
Services that'll take old series.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll write that down.
So, yeah.
That being said, with that out of the way, let's get to our recap of Strange New Worlds.
Okay, and a reminder from here on out, we are going to get into spoiler territory. So if you have not yet watched the episode, go watch the damned episode.
And then come back.
We are going to fly through this.
Right.
Let's see here. Okay. So we started out with Lon going around and giving the crew shit for various things. Being the security officer, she's got to be the heavy on the crew. Of course, Chief Engineer Pelia's centuries of collecting falls under particular scrutiny. We get a scene of her sparring with Mbenga, although she's kind of smacking him as hard as she can, because really she's just fighting through the fact that she feels isolated and alone, and she really doesn't have anybody to talk to. So she walks out. So, of course, she walks out, and boom, popping in from the past or the future is some guy, and he's shot, and he says, "There's an attack in the past," and dies. So we don't know who Doctor Who is the dead guy is, but oh well.
And he leaves with an important clue. He says, "Get to the bridge." So she's assuming it to the bridge to get to the bridge of the starship.
So she goes on to the bridge of the Enterprise, but it's Kirk's Enterprise. Roll the opening credits.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thoughts?
The thing is, yeah, it's kind of weird because this was Kirk's Enterprise with, we had Ortegas on the bridge, and of course we had a younger Uhura. So of course we're in the same time. It's just, I think they kind of shook it up for a little bit of difference. Obviously, they wanted to make it a noticeable difference as to
still better than the Abrams Trek and how they got him on Kirk on that bridge.
Yep, and the flying Apple store in space.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Kirk's flying Apple store in space, not the bridge.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please continue.
So we come back from the credits, find out that there is no Starfleet. Spock is a Vulcan captain begging for help with the Romulans because they're warring on everybody, and Earth apparently got all fucked up in some nuclear shenanigans. So Lon pulls Kirk in, talks to him, says, "I got this from this dead guy." Kirk wants the device of Doctor Who is the dead guy, gets a little grabby, hits the button, and poof, they're in the past.
Specifically,
Toronto.
New York City. I mean, Toronto.
Yeah, Kirk's not very smart because he was born in space, not in Iowa.
He was born in space on the USS Iowa. Yeah, I feel the same way. And the funny thing is that I think that was very much a tongue-in-cheek joke when he says, 21st century Earth looks like New York City. And the dumb thing is, like, there's a sign, a big display right behind him that says Toronto. And, of course, Lon's like, smacky, dumbass.
Yeah. So, obviously, they figure out it's cold, and two, they got to blend in a little bit better. So they go to find some clothes. And they get into the exact same cool black outfits. Black as shit, and everybody's sexy. Of course, Kirk says... goes back in changing room. We get some sexy Kirk without a shirt because we got to have Kirk without a shirt. And he comes in nice, cool brown leather number. And so after they finish stealing their clothes, they figure, we got to get some money. So Kirk breaks out his chess skills, earns a bunch of cash. They bound over some hot dogs. But for some reason, Lon does not want Kirk's wiener until he finally forces it on her. Not rapey at all.
Right. I mean, it's kind of a look. This is kind of they had to, even though the episode weighs in at just over an hour, like an hour and a minute in total runtime, including credits. Excuse me. They kind of had to pigeonhole real quick to kind of get them to the meat and potatoes of the episode of how they sort everything out. So they had a little bit of levity there with the whole, Kirk's like, "Here, have a hot dog," and of course, my dirty mind is thinking,
wiener joke because it's Kirk.
Yeah, I'm thinking, of course, Kirk offers the attractive female as hot dog.
So they get into a little bit of debate on the timelines, and Kirk's arguing why should he go to make Lon's timeline work and sacrifice his own. Although he finds out that Sam Kirk, his brother, is alive in one of those timelines, and it's not his. So... let's see here. They argue for this a little bit after their night of not sleeping in different locations, but they're interrupted when a big bridge goes boom. Apparently, they both remember this, so this is common to both timelines.
Mm-hmm.
They go down, they're looking. Lon spots something in the wreckage that looks kind of weird. She borrows the camera of a photographer taking pictures and figures out it's a photonic bomb. So... they see the stuff getting loaded up. Kirk apparently learned how to do a Vulcan neck pinch. They steal a car, and Kirk learns to drive. We haven't gotten to the Abrams Trek version of Kirk's driving yet.
It's not, yeah. The reason that doesn't throw it off of a giant cliff to piss off his stepdad. Right.
So the big thing here, though, is we learn that Kirk has never heard of Khan Noonien Singh or Khan Noonien Soong. Khan Noonien Soong. He said Soong, but it was Khan Noonien Singh.
Oh, yeah, that was total tongue-in-cheek, a reference to Noonien Soong. Dr. Noonien Soong, the creator, of course, of Data, lore, and... yes.
Because no Star Trek fan knows that, right? Got
exactly. It. If you don't know it, you're not a Star Trek fan. I'm sorry.
Yes. I will agree there. So then we get him cranking out to not sabotage, driving around and not hitting people. Cops, of course, start following, pin him. The van gets away. Kirk, unfortunately, and Kirk gets busted. But then that journalist who they borrowed the camera from early comes by, starts some shit, and somehow the cops magically let him go with a warning. Of course, we find out next she's also kind of a conspiracy theory nut because she's worried about aliens.
Yeah. But that's not such a bad thing because when they're looking through,
there's an alien involved.
Right. But when they're looking through the pictures that she has, one of them is quite...
They haven't gotten there. They have to go get poutine first.
Oh, excuse me.
They're in Canada. But yeah, then she shows them some pictures and there's a Romulan ship.
A Romulan bird of prey. An older style, a Toss area one. Yeah.
She also mentioned that there's a cold fusion reactor that is being hidden by the government or some super government cabal or whatever they are. Kirk remembers, though, that this reactor went boom in his timeline. So they need to find it. Luckily, they don't have a tricorder or anything because Kirk got grabby with a woman. Can't imagine that happening. Yes, I'm going to make jokes about Kirk being a man whore constantly.
Yeah, he gets a little handsy with women.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot handsy.
Luckily, Lon remembers there might be somebody that can help them, so they drive to Vermont, where Pelia, future chief engineer, is.
So, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so they start in Toronto, and they drive to where?
Vermont.
And Vermont is where?
In the United States of America.
And somehow they managed to get across the border without passports?
They said there was they pulled some bullshittery or something.
Of course they did.
Yeah. Well, probably Kirk fucked somebody along the way. That's bound to get him through. Says, "Here, I'll show you my passport."
Yeah, I bet he did. And again, Kirk
rips his shirt. There's your passport, bitch. Ooh, silky. Okay, you can go through.
Is this the same shirt rip from Arena and also the Futurama
every other episode where he ripped his shirt?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, Kirk, of course, is learning how to learn things because he learned it from DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, name dropping the conspiracy theorist. That for anybody knows DuckDuckGo, that thing is just as tracky as Google or Bing. So kiss my ass. I just thought it was funny they name dropped DuckDuckGo of all things.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to use different search engine because when you get too mainstream, tend to find another search engine. Just never use Bing because seriously, fuck Bing. So
Bing!
Does this with Pelia, who unfortunately hasn't learned how to be an engineer yet. I mean, she's got a couple 100 years to pick it up, so. But they do figure it out. But they do some techno babbling until they figure out they can use this watch, a diver's watch or something, and they can turn that into a detector to pick up this cold fusion reactor. So look, they magically transport back to Toronto without anything, which probably because it'd be boring, probably because Kirk would have had to fuck at least 5 other women while Lon watches and jerks off. But they start getting all bondy, and Lon's talking about her loneliness, and then Kirk scores until their detector lights up. So they say, "Oh, looks like we can't bone. It's time to go and continue the plot."
For those,
so they go to.
I want to interject a little bit for those who have seen the episode. Of course, back when they were in the hotel room or whatever they're at, there is a part where Lon can't sleep, and she gets out of bed and goes and looks at Kirk sleeping on the couch, and I think for a moment she's thinking, yeah, I think I could have that wiener, and then she's like, nah, and goes back, and he wakes up, he's like, how come she didn't get my wiener? And then we move on. Anyways, onwards and upwards.
So they get to the building, they're trying to figure out how to get in, but then Lon spots a sign that says the Noonien Singh cultural something or other. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but the point is, it might be keyed to her DNA, which of course it is. Unfortunately, this is when that crazy nut conspiracy girl shows up, and oh no, she's actually Romulan, and she's threatening to shoot him if they don't open the door. Kirk, of course, goes, "Hey, you're not going to shoot us. That'll set off alarms, and everything will go to hell." So she shoots him, and he dies.
And the alarm goes off.
Yay!
Bonus points for her actually calling his bluff. So,
and killing Kirk deader than hell. We always like a good killing Kirk. So Rami Girl decides to go with Plan B. She was going to blow up the reactor, but no, she'll just go find and shoot none other than Khan Noonien Singh himself. So the Rami Girl obviously talks to Lon and says, "Hey, if you kill him, that little device will protect you from the timeline changes, and then Lon Noonien Singh will be just your name, and it won't be Khan's name anymore. So yay!" She of course says, "No, not really," and they fight. She shoots the Ramin. Ramin's dead. But then she goes to the door and opens it because, well, she could actually go and just shoot Khan. But then she meets little boy Khan, and she kind of consoles him and wipes his tears away and is all merciful and doesn't do the, "Hey, I could kill baby Hitler and save problems." So, but then she hits the button and goes back to her future, goes back to the bridge, everybody's there, it's normal. Goes to her quarters, and of course, agent from Department of Temporal Investigations is sitting there waiting for her. Tells her she can't tell anybody anything because of all that. And then, of course, says, "Want my stuff?" Okay. She doesn't fight it like it's Kirk because, well, didn't think, because, yeah, obviously future bitch is going to take her shit. So she hands that. Last scene, Lon decides to call Kirk. Confirms he's from Iowa. Makes up some bullshit story about how she's checking on Sam. And he says, "Come see me when you can. We'll talk about Sam." Of course, this is one that's never met her. And it ends with her crying because this is the first time she's really had a connection with anybody, and that connection got shot back on future possible alternate timeline Earth.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, so it finishes with her, breaking down crying, which for me I think was probably the most prolific part of the entire episode. Is you got to see this woman who is usually as tough as steel,
and less emotional than Spock.
Yes, and she breaks down crying, and for me, that sealed the deal for the episode. Any fuckery that the episode brought out, that certainly sealed it up and made it a good episode, good solid episode for me.
Oh yeah, you can time travel episodes can be really cool or really shit, and this one came around to be the cool side.
So let's talk about the various talking points of the episode.
Yeah. So first thing, we'll jump to the very end. That's mentioned that there's timeline wars and temporal wars and all that. So obviously a reference to the temporal Cold War there. That was really awesome. Despite it being temporal Cold War, they're keeping that through line so that it's not forgotten. They're reminding us, yeah, the stuff, all this weird wibbly wobbly timey wimey shit actually happened.
True. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Which justifies the whole point of temporal investigations and keeps things from going sideways. So yeah, it was that kind of played off well, and that way it tidies up this episode, so we're not like, well, that was kind of weird.
So as far as them linking everything together, of course, that is a good way to I guess tie everything together.
Yeah. Now, of course, this brought into what turning points in our history took allowed us to unify and go to the stars, and dealing with madmen like Khan and things like that rather than a disjointed, ununified planet kind of helped, which is how we got Zephyr Cochrane deciding to build a warp engine, which brought the Vulcans and First Contact, which brought the Federation, yada, yada, yada.
So from what I understand, if they're keeping everything kind of tied together, if because Strange New Worlds is technically a spin-off of Discovery, I guess the thing is that
Technically.
yeah, I mean it's not, and I don't think it's officially tied to Picard because Picard season 2 they end up in 2024. At the end, okay, and we've already said this is spoilers, so it's gonna be spoilers about everything we talk about. At the end of season 2 of Picard, they have this situation where was it who is well the Soong I can't is it
Another Soong.
yeah is it Aaron Soong or something like that? Anyways, I
It's
forget
all the same person.
Anyways, his last thing he does is pulls out a file folder with the name Khan. I think it was the eugenics Project Khan. So of course, in this episode, Khan is a young boy, probably younger than 10 years old. So it has to, if everything kind of lines up, it's got to be probably like mid 2030s, which is kind of weird because if that's the case, World War III should have already happened. And this is where we kind of, I won't get too far because I know we got to talk about another bit before this, but it starts to really, really blender everything a little bit too much for my liking.
Well, to be fair, though, they're dealing with a timeline that we're literally in.
Sure, but the thing is,
2024. The problem is that's less than a year from now.
Right, you're right. But let's go on to the next talking point, which is about La'an, and then we can kind of circle back to this bit.
This was really her episode. It was all about exploring her and how she's alienated and how she needs to make more contact. In fact, in the end, she when she goes to the bridge, there's Pelia's arguing about her art collection. Lon says, I'm good with it. Showing that she's kind of recognized a little bit more. She's trying to connect with people a little bit more.
Well, because remember, she is the lone survivor of her family due to a Gorn attack.
Also, Noonien Singh.
Yeah. At the end of season 2, she left the Enterprise to go help another Gorn survivor head off and find their family.
Yeah.
So she had something to find. She needed something to find purpose.
Yeah, which hopefully now that she's back, we'll see another episode or two where she makes connections. But just hopefully not with Kirk and his wiener. So let's talk about Khan himself.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Okay, so this is where things get a little too mixed up in the blender that it just starts to, it starts to really jam-pack shit together. Remember our big points. Okay, our big points are 2024, where the Picard people went. Okay, and we had Project Khan, officially get reopened or opened. Okay, we have whenever this time is, it's sometime in the early to mid 21st century, which has to happen if it's all tied together. It has to happen probably somewhere in the 2030s, and then we got First Contact in 2063. So we have maybe 30, 31, 32 years between then and First Contact, during which the eugenics wars and World War III have to happen. Both of them have to happen.
And it doesn't look like we've had any of the major wars.
Right. Now, they did make a point.
Time period.
I think they did make a mention here, which was well done. They talk about how this was supposed to all take the eugenics wars were supposed to take place back in 1992 because that's when it actually happened in Star Trek history, going all the way back to the episode Space Seed.
And here I thought we just graduated and Bill Clinton was elected or something.
Exactly. Year. Yeah, according to official Star Trek history from the original series, 1992 to 1996 were the eugenics wars, and then after that, Khan and his race of Supermen were banished to deep space aboard the Botany Bay. But like we're running way out of time. We got to fit 2 massive worldwide wars in a very short amount of time, and so they keep retconning everything. I think they're doing their best. So I have to give them credit that they're doing their best. But it's just hard. It's like shit, man. They're really, really bumping up there, And I think, am I being too worried about?
It's bad.
Again, am I being too worried about? Like, am I worrying too much about it? Am I being too pedantic about the years and stuff? Maybe. I mean, again, I understand they've got to keep it relevant. They got to go back. I mean, they can't like society didn't magically rebuild itself in the wake of the eugenics wars just to blow itself up again. I think that realistically, if we were talking about it, the end of the eugenics wars may splinter off and spark the Third World War. Like maybe somebody like after the eugenics wars, people just say, "Fuck this, we're done. This is crazy," and push the button.
Yeah, that's kind of what Pike kind of mentioned that in the very first episode that the eugenics wars spiraled into World War III and just became known as the war, and he kind of fudged it a lot there.
Yeah, the only thing is, and I love how you got this these talking points laid out, and I went ahead and added it, and you just had con, and I said retcon, and I'm like, they keep retconning things. This is where I'm starting to kind of get a little fatigue with the franchise because they keep retconning
need to get out
things
of the century.
I mean, the more they focus back here on the 21st century and the way it is right now, the more they keep having to retcon things. And it's understandable because they didn't know in 1966 what our time was going to be like. They had to guess. They had to surmise based on, what they knew of the 1960s. But
it's where we got giant hollow jaws and the hoverboards.
That was 2015. Thank you very much.
Damn it. I'm in the wrong franchise again, ain't I?
Well, I started in the wrong franchise, or I jumped us into the wrong franchise to start with. So you're welcome.
Yeah, but that wasn't even time travel one. You suck at this.
Well, at least it was science fiction, and it was a Roland Emmerich movie. So
anyway,
so yeah, I mean, again, they're having to adjust things to make it all kind of fit and be a little shiny. So. Okay, enough. I'm done. End of rant. /end of rant.
So last thing I have here is Kirk could probably fuck anyone if he wanted to, couldn't he?
Yeah.
I think we just need an entire episode where Kirk shows up on the Enterprise, and the episode could be The Naked Before, where he shows up on the Enterprise and literally ends up fucking everybody on the crew.
The Naked Always. How about this is The Naked Always? The thing is, if we were doing more episodes,
a prequel to The Naked Time.
Yeah, if we were doing more episodes, if we were gonna continue this into an 8th season, maybe we could just do an episode, go through every piece of Star Trek media where the character of James T. Kirk appears, and and count. Just take a physical count of how many species, female or otherwise, that he boinks.
See that guy? Yo, homeboy fucked a Martian.
And into another franchise we go.
You betcha. Either way, I think we've worn this one out, don't you?
Absolutely. So that's all the time we got for this episode of Treknicity. Thank you for joining for this episode. Please be sure to check us out on all of our wonderful socials above. And also visit on our YouTube channel at redshirtgeeks.tv, where you can look back at the last 9 years of content.
9 years.
I'm Lars.
I'm Patrick.
And remember, go boldly. And as always, rock out. Which Spock out. We'll see you next time.